Every once in a while, you come across a place from which you probably did not have a lot of expectations. Maybe because of the way it is portrayed on social media or the lack thereof. But then, once you visit that place and then come back home, you can't just stop thinking about it because that place gave you so much more beyond anything that you thought about it. Jewish kingdom, which was formed around 379 AD, they are hand painted tiles. So it's very fascinating. Something like that happened during the last leg of our Kerala trip when we found ourselves in Fort Kochi. I went here thinking this would be another cute little beach town in India with all those quaint European town-like charming vibes, just like Pondicherry, And while that was there, no doubt, but then there was also so much more to it.
This is a true testament of Cochin's acceptance of various cultures and religions.
From seeing the oldest Jewish synagogue in the Indian Commonwealth to losing myself in the beauty of the backwaters on a rainy afternoon. Almost about to get entirely wet, but it's so beautiful. From getting mesmerized by a traditional Kathakali performance to learning about the fascinating maritime history of one of the world's oldest ports. This port actually came into being in, I think, 1340, around this time. This place had so much to offer that even after spending 6 days here, I badly want to go back, just to explore a little more of it. So come with me as I unravel the stories of one of India's most historic yet underrated cities. A very good morning from this beautiful neighborhood of Fort Kochi. This area is known as the Mattancherry neighborhood because there's a palace nearby where we're going to be going. So today's plan is to explore around this neighborhood, the Jewtown neighborhood of Fort Kochi. Explore the cafes in the area, the palace, and let's see whether we can catch the sunset from. Let's go. One of the striking features of Fort Kochi, which we actually also learned during our heritage walk yesterday, is that this is a place where a lot of communities have come together to stay within a very small area. And this neighborhood, for instance, where we're staying, this place is the Gujarati Lane. So there's sweet shops, there's a Ram Mandir here, and I think there's also a Jain temple. We didn't have breakfast today, so right away decided to dive into lunch. We came to this local restaurant called Vijay Lakshmi. It's a veg restaurant and they also serve sadhya. So we thought, why not just have a little bit of food and then we'll head out. Let's see how this is. We have had each of these things separately, but then not all together. So it's the first time that we're having a proper sadhya meal. Although I think there might be a little bit of items missing from the menu from what I'd heard from our Travancore stay. But sadhya is the best out there. But then let's try this one here and see how it is. Honestly, the lunch was super soulful. And after our tummies did their happy dance, we made our way to a 16th century palace. So the Mattancherry Palace, it's also known as the Dutch Palace, although it was built by the Portuguese. History goes like that it was built in 1555 by the Portuguese, who gave it as a gift to the then king of Cochin. When you see it from the outside, you'd find that this palace has the very typical Kerala style architecture. I learned that this traditional form is known as Nalaketta. And then on the inside, you feel the presence of royalty in every corner. So the palace was actually a gift from the Portuguese to the royal family. I think the king was Kerala Varma, the then king of Kochi. It was given as a gift because they allowed for the spice trade to happen. And about a century later, after that, the Dutch came and they took over all the renovation, and ever since then it started becoming known as the Dutch Palace. Hence, even though it was built by the Portuguese, it's also known as the Dutch Palace. Now, for the royal family, the palace became a place for ceremonies like coronation. So, even though it was built and maintained by the Portuguese and then the Dutch, the palace had always been under the royal family. And that is why inside the palace we have all these different items that were used by the king, and the bedchamber even belonged to the royal family. There were beautiful mural paintings of Ramayana. It's very fascinating, the inside part is very, very beautifully done, very intricate woodwork also. And within the palace itself, there is a Pazayanur Bhagavati temple dedicated to the royal deity. Right outside the Matancheri Palace, you have this beautiful area which is basically the Vembanad Lake, and you can also go boating. There's a booking office there. You can go for a bit of boat cruises around Cochin, and behind me is the shipyard. So in Kochi, you will see lots of ships because there's a very well established port here. This port actually came into being in, I think, 1340, around this time, AD. Initially, it was at a place called Muziris. I hope I'm getting the pronunciation right. Basically, there was a flood, and then the port shifted from there to Cochin. So yeah, that's how Kochi came to be an important trading center. Throughout history, Kerala in general also has been this center of trade, especially the Malabar spice trade. I think you must have read in your history books. And that dates back to 3000 BC, so that's like 5000 years ago. Soon after that, we found ourselves strolling along the lanes of the historic Jewtown neighborhood of Fort Kochi. Flanked by pastel color buildings on either side of the narrow streets, once you come here, it feels like you've entered into a whole different world. As you keep walking by, you'll come across several boutique stores, spice shops, and most predominantly, lots and lots of antique stores. There's a very vintage-ish charisma in this place which enraptures you instantly. And even a lot of art cafes. So if you're an art connoisseur, I think you're gonna love this place. The neighborhood itself looks very quaint, very charming, almost like a typical European town. Although it definitely does tend to get a little crowded at times. So to escape the said crowds for a little while, we found ourselves in a cozy corner of this coffee shop. So we came to one of this cafe. It's called Arte Cafe. It's very beautiful, especially with these window side sittings, and you can basically see the Jewtown Road right there, down there. Very nice place for, grabbing a cup of coffee and just enjoying the neighborhood. Every single corner was just so artsy, so aesthetic. There were so many beautiful pieces of artwork. The whole place was simply a treat to the eyes. We're sitting inside the oldest synagogue in the Commonwealth. This is the Pardesi Synagogue or Matancheri Synagogue. So, as you keep walking along the narrow lanes of the Jewtown, you would find yourself at this place called the Synagogue Lane, which leads to this old Jewish synagogue, which is still active today. It was built in 1568, so it's almost 450 years old, more than actually that. The interiors are very beautifully done. Even the tiles here, they are hand painted tiles. They were brought in all the way from China by a renowned Jewish businessman. So it's very fascinating. And I absolutely loved how gorgeous these Belgian glass chandeliers were. So freaking beautiful, yaar. It requires a minimum of 10 Jewish men for a service to take place. Even though right now there's only one Jew, I think he's almost 60 or 80 years old, living in, Fort Kochi right now. But once upon a time, this area used to be thriving in the Jewish population. At one point of time, there were over 2,000 Jews living in here. And it's not just when the Portuguese or the Dutch came. In fact, this place has a Jewish history dating back to the 1st century AD. So it's almost 2,000 years old history of Jewish heritage. The synagogue is popularly known as the Pardesi synagogue, and obviously Pardesi means foreigner, foreign, and since it was built by the Portuguese Jewish, hence the name Pardesi synagogue. So right next to the synagogue there was a small museum where they had a few paintings along with the history of the region. And one thing that we learned there is that there was a Jewish kingdom which was formed around 379 AD. So even before these Portuguese, Dutch, this history happened, the Jewish were here and there was a kingdom. In fact, we met somebody from a nearby village who just gave us these readouts, and he also mentioned about a few synagogues which are there in his village, which are far older than this synagogue that we just saw. Although a few modern historians claim that the Jews had settled in India not in the 4th century AD, but rather in the 11th century AD. So it's, I guess, up for debate.
So behind me, there's this clock tower built in the 1730s. One of the interesting features about this clock is it has got 3 faces. One of them, as you can see, is in Roman numerals, which faces the street, the synagogue lane, which is for common people to use. The face of the clock, which is in the side of the synagogue, has the numbers written in Hebrew for the Jewish people to read, and the side facing the palace that we saw in the morning, has that written in Malayalam. So this is a true testament of Cochin's acceptance of various cultures and religions, not only in spirit but also in practice.
Behind me is a heritage building. It's actually run as a hotel now. It's called the Postcard. But an interesting thing about this is that the last Jewish wedding of Cochin was held here. This neighborhood is honestly so pretty, so aesthetic. We ended up spending almost 2 hours, more than 2 hours actually. So many pretty corners. You can go around the shops, visit the cafes, you can go to the synagogue and just chill and enjoy a very different kind of vibe actually. Since we were in the Jewtown area, we thought we'll check out this one restaurant. I saw a few photos of it on Google and it's a pretty nice spot.
Too sour and salty, and not cold.
So it's hot. So
And it should be cold.
the beef is not supposed to be cold. Come on.
There's a very beautiful view. There are these lakeside sittings. This is the Bembanon Lake basically. And beyond that is actually Willingdon Island. Yesterday we learned that this is the first man-made island of Asia. I feel like there are so many, small facts about Kochi. You can just keep on and you'll keep on discovering more such interesting facts. Anyways, about the restaurant. So, very beautiful, very breezy, especially with the lake and the trees around. Has a very calming atmosphere. but the food is very expensive. We've ordered beef salad and it's pretty good actually. I like it. I don't know why he doesn't like it, but it's good. Although it's I think almost 450 or 500 rupees, just this much amount of salad. So you'd be expected to pay anywhere between 800 to 1000 rupees per person probably if you want a full meal at this place. Otherwise, you can just come here for a bit of a relaxation. Very nice ambience, very soothing. After that really long day of walking around, hitting the pool was just therapeutic. By the time I got up from the pool, all I wanted to do was just hit the bed and fall asleep. It's a dinner in the bed kind of scene today for tonight actually. We've ordered beef roast and this is butter chicken. And we've become huge fans of the porota here. I mean, like, beef porota especially is a pretty famous dish throughout Kerala and we've pretty much become fan of it. So we're gonna dive in and it's actually very good. The taste is so bye. Bye. So this beautiful hotel where we were staying was called Spice Heritage. It's more affordable as compared to the resort that I showed you in my last vlog. It's what I would categorize as bougie on a budget kind of a stay. With all of that woodwork going around, I really love that vintage and old world charm of this resort. But the highlight of the stay was definitely this place where we spent almost an hour chilling yesterday evening. You got it by now, what I meant to say. The swimming pool. The other thing that I really liked was how there was so much greenery all around. Personally, I am a total sucker for places that know how to blend in nature like this. Come to watch a Kathakali performance at Great KV Kathakali Center. So every evening, this place in Fort Kochi organizes Kathakali performances and a few other art forms as well, like the martial arts, Kalariyapattu and all. The performance is going to be for 1 hour, but then before that, another hour is reserved for makeup, which is happening on the stage right now. So you can not only see the dance form, but also the entire process of the makeup and the dress up that the performers would go through before the performance starts. I've taken a ticket for the Kathakali performance and the price is 600 rupees per person. You can do it online. I only reserved a spot online and that's where I ended up pretty much behind. There are seats in the front as well, so if you want, you can make the bookings early on as well.
Katha means story, Kali means play, story play. Kathakali makeup using all natural color.
The narrator explained about the whole makeup process and how each of the colors are used to invoke a variety of human emotions.
5 characters. Green color is very good character. Yellow is female characters. Red is cruel character.
One of the most fascinating aspects of this dance form are the eye movements of the performer. Combining that with the hand movements or the mudras, it can become really entertaining at times. After all those demonstrations, the main storyline starts. The whole dance performance is an enactment of that story, which is called Nala Charitam. It tells a deep love between King Nala in the green face and Princess Damayanti depicted by the yellow face character. The other character on the right here is the Hamsam or the golden swan, who kind of acts as a messenger between the king and the princess here. The story begins here in King Nala's palace when he sees the golden swan and approaches it with the intention of catching it. This frightens the swan and then he pleads with God as to why he made him different from the rest of the swans. King Nala then tells him to not be afraid of him and instead become his messenger to go to Damayanti and tell her about his love confession. The swan then comes to Damayanti and tells her that it resides in the palace of King Nala. Damayanti then confesses to the swan that she is helplessly in love with the king. In response, the swan says that it'll go and confess her love to the king, but then warns her not to fall in love with anybody else. Damayanti assures the swan that it is only the king whom she loves, and loving anybody else would be as likely as a mountain moving towards the sea. How romantic, right? After that whole cultural indulgence, it was time for some food indulgence. We decided to come to this restaurant called Rasoi.
So it's near to Princess Street. Actually, we wanted to go to a place called Francis, but it was closed even though it was showing open on Google and none of their numbers connected. So we came here to have good old Indian food of butter chicken naan. So they served us murg malai tikka. The plating is outstanding, as you can see, the garnish. However, both of us are a bit sad because hungry as we are, the quantity is kinda less for the price point. It's soft. It's very good. There's a nice, rich, nutty flavor to it, along with the malai. It's very good.
The minimal decor added to the charm of this place, and overall, it was quite a nice experience. The taste of the food turned out to be great, so I would definitely recommend it. I'm standing in front of one of the most prominent tourist spots of Fort Kochi, and it is this Santa Cruz Cathedral Basilica. It's a massive, massive cathedral. Very beautiful, intricate paintings are inside. Although you would have to keep in mind to cover your shoulders. Some uncle asked me to go out because I don't have a shrug over here. So that's something that you might want to keep in mind. The cathedral was originally constructed by the Portuguese in 1505, but then after the Britishers came, they demolished it, so a new structure was commissioned in 1887. The intricate woodwork, the tile archways, the gorgeous paintings, all of the artsy works really made this one of the most beautiful churches that I have ever visited. We're at one of the most artsy cafes in Fort Kochi, and it's called Kashi Art Cafe. Like a lot of other cafes in the region which wholly encompass the spirit of art, Kashi Art Cafe also stays true to its name, as you can see. From abstract sculpture that blend in so perfectly with the greenery around to an entirely dedicated gallery section, it was honestly easy to see why this was the most famous cafe in the region. And we've ordered their specialty juices. I think this one is called Tropical Bliss. This one is something of watermelon. I don't remember the name exactly, but these are so refreshing, so hydrating. Like even right now, because the temperatures are soaring at times, so very hydrating, feels very refreshing. And here we have avocado toast, and I think the bread is a carrot bread. It's the garnishing and everything is superb, and even the taste is good. There's a couple more things we've ordered, so let that come in and we'll have it. I've never really liked the taste of avocados, but then I'm so glad I gave this one a chance because I absolutely loved this avocado toast. Another thing that the chef recommended is this beef fry. Thai beef fry, I think it's a rice bowl sort of thing. It is so damn good. So damn good.
So this is a proper Kerala style fish curry. The gravy tastes very strongly of coconut and Malabar spices. It's good. If you're looking for something on a more tomato-ish, creamy and spicy side, this is a very good dish.
The other thing that a lot of the reviews mention about this cafe is how good their chocolate cake is. As much as I've tried it, it is, I don't know, wow. It kind of just melts in your mouth. You have to try this one. After a gala time at the cafe, we decided to stroll around this fancy neighborhood a little more. If you're looking for an affordable stay, then I think you can check out Bunkhouse. Our initial plan was to stay here, but then this is currently undergoing renovation for the peak season, that is December is coming up. And the owner Riaz, he was a super nice guy, and he was like, okay, I'll put you up in another stay. It's called Spice Heritage. That's again another very beautiful stay. But if you need affordable dorms, this is where you can just come and stay. It's currently undergoing renovation, but it's like gonna be ready in maybe another week or so. That's what he said. And we were like, since we were in the area, we decided to come and check it out. And the space is really beautiful, really spacious. The dorms are also being nicely done, and it's a lovely space and very budget friendly as well. And you have this windows where you can sit and work, and I think that's one of the best views that you can have.
So we were here at the Indian Naval Maritime Museum. So this had lots of out of commission and still in service missiles, torpedoes, surface-to-surface missiles, and so on and so forth, anti-aircraft missiles. And they also had a museum inside where they had the evolution of Indian Navy and displayed personal artifacts donated by high-up officials of Indian Navy. They also have a video playing which shows us the formation of Indian Navy and the successful operations it had. And since tomorrow, 4th December, is the Indian Naval Day, the day they set fire on Pakistan in 1971, it was a very good day to come here.
Visiting maritime museums or army museums like this would always leave me with a deep sense of gratitude for people who decide to put the country first before themselves or their families, and then dedicate their entire lives serving it at the front line. I sat down with my sentimental thoughts at the Fort Kochi beach, wondering how is it that certain places make you feel certain things. It's as if it provokes you into seeing beyond what just meets the eye, or in this case, the expectations that you came with after watching a 1-minute reel. And maybe that's why we all should travel, not just to see and tick off bucket list places, but also to think, to know, to learn, and also, most importantly, to unlearn. I kept trudging along this beach promenade, which connected the Fort Kochi beach to the Vasco da Gama Square. It was quite the popular joint for the locals and tourists alike, with lots of food stalls and shops selling trinkets, making the whole atmosphere quite lively. And that is Fort Kochi for you. A tiny place of just 4 square kilometers, which is a home to over 30 different communities living together. I mean, forget the Jews, the Dutch, the Portuguese, or the Britishers for a second. Heck, even the Chinese left their mark in the city in the form of these fishing nets, which dot its landscape, and are still used today even after almost 700 years. With all of those idiosyncrasies added with the magic of a sunset like this, let me warn you, you are going to fall in love with Fort Kochi. Exactly just like I did.